The Harvest by Loreto Parra Sulit. The characters for this story are Fabian, Trining, Tina and their baby, Vidal, and Milia, and Miss Francia.
Author Loreto Parra Sulit. Settings: Rice Field, Miss Francesca's house, Fabian house, and Batalan.
Theme: The short story Harvest by Loreto Parra Sulit is about the envious brother Fabian. Due to Fabian's envy to his brother, he even manipulated his brother's own life.
He first saw his brother's eyes in the palace stalks were talking on a cold late afternoon sun. They were losing their temple and windswept and staring into a little, almost inevitable whispers. The rim of Fabian's strokes, smooth and unbroken. So many palace stalks had to be harvested before sundown. There was no time to be lost in dialing. But when he stopped to hip-hop the fallen palace stalk, he glanced at his brother to fathom the other state of the man in one silent long glance. The swing of Vidal's figure was as graceful as the downward curve of the crescent-shaped cycle. How stubborn his younger brother of his, how hard-headed, foamed Fabian as he held stalk after stalk. It is because he knows how very good-looking he is, how he is so much running all by women in town. The docile young fool without pure dreams of strange admiration. He is wishful for life, not this field, not their quiet, colorless women and dullness of long nights and broken silent sleep. But he must bend one of these days.
Vidal stopped in his work to wipe off the heavy sweat from his brow. He wondered how his brother could work that fast all day without pausing to rest, without slowing in the rapidity of his strokes. But that was the reason the master would not let him go. He could harvest a field in the morning that would require 3 men to finish in a day. He had always been afraid of his older brother of his. There was something terrible in the way he determined things, how he always brought them to pass, how he disregarded the soft and beautiful in his life, and sometimes how he crushed trampled people, things he wanted to destroy. There were flowers, insects, birds of boyhood memories, what Fabian had done to them. There was Tinay. She did not truly like him, but her widowed mother had some lands. He won and married Tinay. He stopped in surprise, for his brother had sprung up so suddenly, and from the look on his face, it was as if a shining glory was smiling shyly, tremulously, in that adoring way of his that called forth all the boyishness of his nature. There was the slow crunch of footsteps on dried soil, and Fabian sensed the presence of people behind him. Vidal had taken off his wide, furry hat and was twisting and untwisting it nervously. "Ah, it is my model. How are you, Vidal?" It was a voice too deep and throaty for a woman, but beneath it one could detect a gentle, smooth nuance, soft as silk. It affected Fabian very queerly. He could feel his muscles tensing as he waited for her to speak again. But he did not stop in work, nor turn to look at her.
He had never seen anyone like her. She was tall, regular, unconscious assurance in her figure. She carried so well and pale as though she has recovered from recent illness. She was not exactly very young nor beautiful, but there was something disquieting and haunting the unshimmery of her sutureness in the clear reflection of the dark blackness in her hair and her eyes. in that mole just above her nether lip tingled the whole face with strange loveliness, for yes, he has indeed beautiful one discovered after a rice-grained husk, and the husk that the seamless fold silken lines were but the undertones of the grace flowed from her as he walked away from you. Brothers returned to their work, but to the end of the day he did not exchange a word. Once Vidal attempted to whistle, but gave it up after a few bars. When the sundown came, he stopped harvesting. He started on the way home. They walked with difficulty on the dried rice paddles, and they reached the end of the rice field, the sniftest and the piece of twelfth landscape of Dening to Fabian augmented the spell that woman that was still over him. It was queer how kept thinking about her on reminding her of the scent of her perfume, the blush on her dress against him, and the look of her eyes and her eyes on his arms. If he had been bed in, he would be tossing painfully, feverly. Why was her face always before him? Thought it were always views were somewhere in the distance, forever walking up to the large amount, thus long feathery antennae, a curling sensually in the air. Vidal paused and picked up. Before he could do so, his brother had hit it with the bundle of palay stalks he carried. The mouth fell out of the ground in mass broken wings, fluttering wings thus. After they walked a distance, Vidal asked, "Why are you that way?" "That is my way. That is the way of destroying things that are beautiful, like months, like the dust of the wings of a moth should get into your eyes and you should be blind. Not the reason things that are beautiful have a way of hurting, and I destroy it when I feel hurt."
Supper was already set on the table. Tinay would not eat. She could not leave the baby, she said. She was a small, nervous woman, still with the lingering prettiness of her youth. She was rocking a baby in a swing made of blanket tied at both ends to ropes hanging from the ceiling. Trining, his older child, a girl of 4, was in a corner playing cyclot solemnly by herself. Everything seemed a dream, a large spending dream. This little room with all the people inside, faces in a dream. That woman in the fields this afternoon, a colored, past dream by now, but the unrest, the fever she had left behind, was still on him. He turned almost savagely on his brother and spoke to break these two protesqui. During bubbles of his life, when I was your age, Vidal, I was already married. It is high time you should be settling down. There is Emilia. I have no desire to marry her, nor anybody else. Just for 5 carabals. There! He had spoken out at last. What a relief it was, but he did not like the way his brother pursed his lips tightly that boded not defeat. Vidal rose, stretching himself luxuriously. On the door of the Silid, where he slept, he paused to watch his little niece. As she threw a pebble into the air, he caught it and would not give it up. She pinched, bit, shook his pants furiously while he laughed in grey amusement. He avoided his brother from that morning. For one thing, he did not want repetitions of the Carabao's question with Milia to boot. For another, there was glorious world and new life opened to him by his work in the master's house. Glamour, the enchantment of hour after hour spent on the shadow-flecked, lang-lang-scented patio where she molded, shaped, reshaped many kinds of men, who all had his face from the clay she worked on. In the evening, after supper, he stood by the window and told the tale of that day to a very quiet group. And he brought that look that was more than the gleam of a voice made weak by strong, deep emotions. His brothers saw and understood. Fury was a high flame in his heart. If that look, that quiver of voice had been a moth, a curl on the dark head of his daughter. Now more than ever, he was determined to have Milia in his home as his brother's wife. That would come to pass. Someday, that look, that quiver would become a moth in his hands, a frail, helpless moth. When Vidal, one night, broke out the news, Fabian knew he had to act at once. Miss Francia would leave within 2 days. She wanted Vidal to go to the city with her, where she would finish the figure she was working on.
He will pay me more than I can earn here, and help me get a position there, and she will always be near her. Oh, I'm going. And the life of a servant. What of that? I shall be near her anyways. Why do you wish to be near her? Why? Oh my God, why? That sentence soundedly vibrating Fabian's ears during the day that followed him. He has never seen closely, only once, and glimpse of thereafter. But the song of loveliness haunted his life. Thereafter, if by magic fusing the Fabian could be Vidal, and how one thought can make one forget the world. Figurative pause, swipe off the heavily sweet of his brow. It was Vidal's in stone again as it never would be. The squinting of nature of loveliness was on him, so that all his body and gathered in glance. All marvel of her beauty, smiled gloriously at him while he made known himself. He did not expect he would remember him. That man with me splendid arms. I am the brother of Vidal. He has forgotten. Roll up his sleeve. Did not know how he worded his thought, but he succeeded making her understand that Vidal could not possibly go with her, that he could stay behind in the fields. Amusement creeping beneath her tones to marry the girl whose fathers have 5 Carabaos. You will see, Vidal told me about it. He blushed and painfully brick red, even his eyes. He felt hot blood flow. That was the only reason to cover not something. He would not know. My brothers wronged this girl. There will be a child.
She said nothing, but the look in her face protested against what she had heard. It said it was not so. But she merely answered, I understand. He shall not go with me. She called the servant, gave him a 20 peso bill and some instruction. Vidal, is he at your house? The brother on the pasture nodded. Now they were alone again. After this afternoon, he would never see her. She would never know. But what had she to know? A pang without a voice, a dream without a plan. How could they be understood in words? Your brother should never know you have told me the real reason why he should not go with me. It would hurt him, I know. I have to finish the statue before I leave. The arms are still incomplete. Would it be too much to ask you to pose for just a little while? While she smoothed the clay, patted it, and molded the vein, muscle arm stole the firmness, the strength of her arms to give lifeless statue. It seemed as if life left him, left his arms that were being copied. She was lost in her work and noticed neither the twilight stealing into the patio nor the silence brooding over them. Wrapped in that silver-gray dust of early night and silence, she appeared in her true light to the man who watched her every movement. She was the one he had a glimpse and crushed all his life. The shining glory in moth and flower eyes had never understood because it hurt with its unearthly radiance. If he could have the whole of her in the cup of his hands, drink of her strange loveliness, forgetful of this unrest he called life, but his arms had already found their duplicate in the white clay beyond. When Fabian returned, Vidal was already at the Batalan, brooding over a crumpled, haggard, tired look in his young eyes was as gray as the skies above. He was speaking to Tinay jokingly. Soon, all your sampaguitas and kamyas will be gone. My dear sister-in-law, I shall be seeing Emilia every night. And her father. He watched Fabian cleansing his face and arms and later wondered why it took his brother that long to wash his arms, why he was rubbing them as hard as that. This 1930s story is a perennial favorite among anthologists. Summary. Vidal and Fabian were taking place stalks in the late afternoon sun. When they were harvesting, they talked about 5 carabaos wherein Vidal must marry Emilia. It was because their need of carabao for plowing the fields. While they were talking, a not exactly young beautiful girl came named Miss Francia. After chatting, the brothers went to work again until sunset. On their way home, Vidal saw a moth and paused to catch it. But then, his brother crushed the moth in no time. Vidal asked, "Why are you that way?" Fabian replied, "What is my way?" "The way destroying things that are beautiful like moths," Vidal answers. "Things that are beautiful have a way of hurting. I destroy it when I feel a hurt," Fabian explained. While eating dinner, Tinay did not join them for she cannot leave her baby, and her daughter Chuning was playing siklot in the corner all by herself. Fabian keeps on telling that Vidal must marry Emilia so that they could have 5 carabaos. For the reply, Vidal said that he will go with Miss Francia to the city to work as her model. The next day, Fabian went to Miss Francia's place. He told that his brother will have a child with Emilia, so his brother may not go to the city with her. Miss Francia asked Fabian to be her model to finish his work. When Fabian went home, he saw his brother and wife talking. He heard that Vidal already accepted to marry Emilia. Vidal watched his brother cleansing his face and arms, later wondered why it took his brother too long to wash his arms, why he was rubbing them as hard as that. In my opinion, this is a very nice and meaningful story. It has a lot of meaning in it. I can't relate that much to the story, however, I really enjoyed reading it. I have never heard of this story before, however, it's very shocking how good this story was. In my understanding, the story was about a boy's envy to his brother. I understand that he is sad about that. The story has a lot of mixed emotions, however, it's mostly sad. The story isn't my favorite, yet it is a really astonishing story and I would tell other people about it. Presentation by Gabriel Marcalabi and Larishka Freya Tripoli.